Nate Goyard.
Stay with me, little bitch, yeah, you know that I'm your man. You be capping like a snitch, no thoughts, won't stand. 2 hoes, 10 toes, new guap, coming bands, new whip, new chips, new kicks, Jackie Chan, as she pay. Bad bitch, no bag, I just hit another lick and she be counting in my rest. And I be feeling hella rich, no Brian, 100 stack, about to make another hit, God bitch, my life. Stay with me, little bitch, yeah, you know that I'm your man. You be capping like a snitch, no thoughts, won't stand. 2 hoes, 10 toes, new guap, coming bands, new whip, new chips, new kicks, Jackie Chan, as she pay. Bad bitch, no bag, I just hit another lick and she be counting in my rest. And I be feeling hella rich, no Brian, 100 stack, about to make another hit, God bitch, my life. If she fucking with me, then you know I got it better. I be feeling like a Uzi, got my mind up on the check, foot loose, getting groovy with your hoe, she love me better. I ain't talking ass cash, but that bitch she bad. And I posted out with twin glass and phone bitches, no face, all they want is squad. I burn bridges, I be getting to the bag, you still cleaning dirty dishes, doing mops and shots to your spot with no limits. Stay with me, little bitch, yeah, you know that I'm your man. You be capping like a snitch, no thoughts, won't stand. 2 hoes, 10 toes, new guap, cutting bands, new whip, new chips, new kicks, Jackie Chan, as she bad. Bad bitch, throw bag, I just hit another lick and she be counting on my rest. And I be feeling hella rich, no Brian, 100 stack, about to make another hit, God bitch, on my life. Stay with me, little bitch, yeah, you know that I'm your man. You be capping like a snitch.
What's up, guys? It's Agent What If, and I'm back again with another video. This is What If Deku Was an OP Experiment Part 1. Hope you guys enjoy. Without much further ado, let's just get right into this video. So we start off with Izuku being born. When Izuku was born, he didn't really know much, seeing as he was a baby. All we really know is that a man came out of the shadows saying, "Hush, hush, my boy. You're with your father now." Izuku was taken by this man to pretty much a nursery for him, almost as if Izuku was expected. Then this man goes over to him, brushing his hand through the boy's hair, saying, "You will be so powerful that no one will be able to stop you." That's when we time skip about 4 years into the future. Once we get to 4 years in the future, Izuku is pretty much just living his best life down here because he has everything he wants. He's a prisoner, but he doesn't really know that, so he has everything he wants. That's when immediately he hears alarms going off. Izuku's wondering what's going on, seeing as all of the people who usually guard him have left, and they left in quite a hurry. Izuku wonders what's going on and starts asking, but no one's listening to him. All he's hearing is a siren blaring, saying, "Code red, not a drill, not a drill." And then that's when he hears it say, "Enemies located on the right wing. Go, 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 go." Izuku's wondering what's going on, and that's when he hears a loud boom to the right wing. And he hears a lot of gunshots and quirks going off. And for a couple minutes, this continues until it stops. That's when immediately he hears a man creeping about saying, "Where is he? I thought you said he was here." And that's when the other guy says, "But he was supposed to. At least the information said so." And he says, "How dare you mislead me? We just led an assault on the hero base. If you're wrong, it'll cost you your life." And the other guy begins to sweat drop, but then quickly tries to find the boy. That's when they get confronted by Eraserhead, All Might, Best Genius, Hawks, and Miracle. And then the villains say, "So you think this ragtag group of beings can stop us? How pitiful." That's immediately when Izuku starts screaming and yelling in his head because he starts feeling so much pain. He can't take it anymore. All the stress of what's going on is overriding his body, and all they hear is a scream. And immediately they say, "So the boy is here. Defeat them all. Kill them if you must. We will get that boy." All Might says, "Protect the boy with all of your lives. We cannot allow him to fall into enemy hands." And that's immediately when Izuku goes over to the wall for support, but touches it, and then the wall teleports, and so does Izuku. That's when we come back to Izuku falling out of the sky, and Izuku actually falls onto some branches, breaking a couple of bones as he hits the ground with a bad thud. Izuku begins to slowly pick himself up as his bones put themselves back into place and mend. Izuku's wondering how this is happening and what's going on. That's when immediately he gets up, deciding that he has to go back. He has to go talk with Father. And that's when he hears something going on. He hears a crush and another crush, and it's a bone-chilling sound. Izuku walks over only to see a man, a fairly tall man, which is Overhaul, but Izuku doesn't know that. And Overhaul says, "Why would they make me do this? They know better than to send me out to come do this mission. If only my quirk was different. This quirk is so troublesome at times." And that's when immediately the man turns around saying, "I know you're there. Come out before I kill you." Azuku then slowly walks out with a blank expression on his face. Immediately Overhaul runs over to him and hugs him, saying, "I thought you were dead. How did you..." And then he immediately jumps back saying, "Who are you?" Azuku then says, "I don't know, actually. They never gave me a name." And then Overhaul gets angry, saying, "How dare you play with me, child?" He begins to take off his gloves and says, "I will kill you. Do not think me a moral person. Tell me the truth. Who are you? Who sent you? Better yet, who sent you?" Izuku then says, I really don't know." And that's when Overhaul senses that the boy has no intent towards him, and he doesn't think he could do anything even if he wanted to. Overhaul then continues looking at the boy, saying, "He really does look just like my brother. But how?" And Izuku then continues walking, saying, "Okay, mister, I'll be seeing you," and begins to walk away. Overhaul goes over to him saying, "Wait, you just said you don't have a name, right?" And Izuku says, "Mm-hmm." And he says, "Would you be okay with me giving you one?" And Overhaul's astounded himself, saying, "Why did I just ask for permission from this kid?" And then that's when Izuku nods, saying, "Sure," with a big smile. Overhaul begins to think back to his younger brother, saying, "I guess I have to. The resemblance is too uncanny." And that's when he says, "Okay, your name will be from now on Katakuri." And Izuku says, "Okay," or Katakuri, I guess now. I'll refer to him as Katakuri, but I think I'll rather just say his name is Izuku because I think that could be confusing. I only say Katakuri when it's an outside character, but when we're just talking about Izuku, I'll use Izuku so it's not confusing and so everyone can understand. If you know the reference from One Piece, I mean, it makes perfect sense. So yeah. Anyway, Izuku and Overhaul continue walking away, and Overhaul begins to question the boy, saying, "Where are your parents?" Izuku says, "I only have a father." And Overhaul says, "Ah, I see. Do you know where your mother is?" Izuku says, "No, I don't." "Well, do you know where your people live?" And Izuku says, "No, I don't." And Overhaul's kind of astounded. He's like, "What is going on? How does this kid not know where he lives?" And then he realizes, oh yeah, he's 4. That makes sense. Anyway, he says, "Kid, would you like to stay with me?" Izuku says, "Wait, I can't do that. But I don't know you, and father would be upset." And then he then says, "Look, kid, your father's not here right now. You're in the forest that have a lot of quirked beasts out here. You could easily be killed." Izuku then says, I mean, if father was okay with it, then sure." And Overhaul says, "Are you serious? Your father's probably okay with it because he wants you to survive, no?" Izuku then nods, saying, "Okay," and he grabs Overhaul's hand and looks down with a shy look. Overhaul is actually kind of shocked by this development and wants to jerk his hand away, but his hand doesn't move. His hand just firmly grasps on Izuku's little fingers and hand and will not let go. Izuku then begins to smile as he walks aside Overhaul, and Overhaul says, "This kid is bringing something out of me that I don't want him to. This is becoming problematic." That's when he begins walking, and Overhaul pretty much says, "We're going here." And Izuku says, "But aren't we going to the city?" And Izuku then is told by Overhaul, "Of course not. If you're as important as you say you are, I doubt there'll be people. I'm pretty sure there'll be people looking for you." And Izuku has told him his whole life story and stuff, so yeah. Anyway, then he says, "I have a better idea." And Overhaul goes to a clearing that he found a little while ago, and he uses his abilities to make pretty much a stone fortress for them, saying, "This is where we'll live, and more importantly, this is where we'll train." Izuku says, "Train? Why would we train?" And he says, if the people who are after you want you as badly as they do, I'm pretty sure they'll do anything to come get you. So, yeah, you probably want to know how to defend yourself, right? Izuku nods, saying, of course. And then we pretty much just time skip from when Izuku was around the age of 4 to about 8 years later. And that's a big gap, but pretty much nothing happens except for them training and getting to know each other. At this point, Izuku calls Overhaul Nichan, or Ni. I forget how to say it. I forgot how to say older brother, but pretty much just his older brother. So yeah, he calls him his older brother because that's pretty much the role he's fulfilled. And Overhaul has no problems with this as he calls him his younger brother. Izuku has also changed Overhaul over the time. He's made him into a better person than he was before, and he even decided that he was going to leave the Yakuza because he didn't want to be a part of the Yakuza because he wanted to protect Izuku. And Izuku, for whatever reason, wanted to be a hero, so that ultimately decided that he was going to have to do whatever it took to protect him. And if being a hero is what that meant, then that was what he would do. And if you're wondering how he can become a hero even though he's a villain, well, he's a villain in the main timeline, but in this story, he hadn't yet become an official villain. He was just a Yakuza member. So, like, he was the head of the Yakuza. And as you know, like in criminal organizations, the head usually doesn't do anything nefarious so that they don't risk taking the whole organization down. So, like, they typically stick to legal stuff. So, yeah. He actually has no bad things about him, like that no one can prove at least. So Izuku pretty much is just hanging out with him when one day Izuku's asked by Overhaul, hey, kid, you know how you've developed so many powers over the time, right? And then Izuku nods his head saying, yeah. And he says, I think I know why. And he then thinks to himself, should I tell him this? He'll figure it out eventually. And that's when he says, so kid, you said you were born in a lab, right? And Izuku nods, saying yes. And he says, you're probably an experiment, a chimera of sorts. And Izuku looks confused, saying, what's a chimera? And Overhaul just basically says, a chimera, or typically referring to the beast, is a whole bunch of animals mashed together, kind of like a Frankenstein's monster, right? Just put together at random, even though they shouldn't go together. Izuku then says, does that make me a monster? Overhaul then goes over to him, ruffling his hair, saying, you can only be a monster if you want to be. And I don't think you're a monster, kid. I don't think you have it in you. But you are dangerous. So make sure to keep that in check. And Izuku then smiles, saying, okay, older brother. That's when we go to about a week later, when Izuku and Overhaul finally begin to leave the forest, saying, it's about time we leave anyway. Izuku then says, what? We're leaving already? He says, what do you mean already, kid? It's been 8 years. It's time for us to leave. We have to go back to civilization. And then Izuku says, oh, okay. Will you still be my... And Izuku then looks away, saying, will you still be my brother, though? And that's when Overhaul ruffles his hair again, saying, of course, Baka. And they begin walking out of the forest when they see a car, and this car almost hits them. That's immediately when the car stops and turns around, and all the people get out of the car. And we actually see that this is Mina's family. I don't really know what her family looks like, so we can just imagine that since her quirk is a mutation, her mother looks like her, and her father looks relatively normal. So then that's when Mina and her family get out the car. Mina gets out of the car, hiding behind her father's legs, and they ask if two of them are okay. Izuku then smiles, saying, yeah, we're okay, mister. No one was hurt, so I guess it's fine. And then they begin to ask the people questions, saying, where are you guys? Why were you out here? Do you need a ride? Are you lost? And then immediately that's when Mina's mother slaps her husband on the head, saying, stop bombarding them with questions. And then she goes over to Izuku and kneels down, saying, first, are you okay? Izuku nods, saying, yeah. And that's when she says, do you guys need a ride back to the city? And Overhaul begins to take off his gloves. And Izuku says, yeah, we do. Almost signaling to Overhaul that, no, you will not kill them. And that's when Overhaul puts his glove back on, saying, this kid thinks he's old enough to boss me around, does he? That's when they get in a car, and Izuku's in the middle, Mina's on the left, and Overhaul's on the right in the back seat. And they begin to ask them questions, and Izuku pretty much just answers for Overhaul. And Overhaul is then asked by Mina's mother if he's Izuku's father. And that's when Overhaul says, no, I'm just his brother. And he says, well, where are your parents? And Izuku quickly makes up something, saying, oh, well, you see, our parents' quirks were too powerful to be in the city, so pretty much we were just living out here because it was more convenient for our quirks. And also, we ran a business that relied on animals, so since our quirks were so powerful, and it just kind of made sense to live out here. And then that's when she said, oh, well then why are your parents not here? Oh, they left before us because they had an important business trip to go on, but we were going to go to the city just in case. Of course, this is completely a lie, but Izuku smiled so brightly that he pulled it off. That's immediately when Mina looks at Izuku and then turns her head again with a blush. By this time, Izuku is pretty fairly tall. Izuku's about, at 12 years old, he's about 5'1". He's not really short at all. Izuku has long green hair, and at the top, it's in like sort of a all the way like pressed to the back bun. That's pretty much a ponytail with two bangs in the front hanging down. Izuku looks at Mina, wondering why she's blushing, and that's immediately when Overhaul says the little charmer's done it again. He's gonna be troublesome in the future. That's immediately when they, with a little time skip, they get to the city, and Mina and her people let them out of the car, saying, oh, well, make sure to stay in touch, okay? And Overhaul waves, and they wave, saying goodbye. That's when Overhaul ruffles his hair again, saying, so, always trying to get yourself a little girlfriend, huh? And Izuku says, what? No, it was just, and then that's when Overhaul says, don't worry about it too much, kid, I'm just joking. But if you did want a girlfriend, you would tell me, right? And that's when Izuku said, of course, older brother. And they begin walking off. I'm going to go quickly over an explanation of all of Izuku's powers thus far to let you guys know, because, it's important information. So, Izuku has the ability to teleport, Izuku has regeneration, Izuku has super strength, speed, durability, reflexes, sight, hearing, and enhanced senses overall. Izuku has the ability to transmute any item that he touches and can manipulate any item within a radius of about 30 meters within himself. And that pretty much just means he has limited telekinesis. Anything that enters his 30 meters of Izuku, he can instantly control no matter what it is, even if it's someone else's quirk. Like if, for example, Dark Shadow were to enter within 30 meters of Izuku, Izuku could take control over Dark Shadow, even though he's a quirk, right? So yeah. Also, Izuku has the ability to store things in pretty much just a pocket dimension that he has. And those are his abilities thus far. So, yeah, with that, we'll continue the story. Izuku continues with Overhaul, and Overhaul says, follow me, kid. I have a place we can go. And that's immediately when Overhaul goes to one of his secret, hideouts, where if the family ever got caught by the police, that they will go here to restart. But Overhaul had no intention of restarting, only using the resources. Overhaul found the stuff he had hid. Well, not really found if he hid it. So he went back and collected the things he left there on purpose. It was a Glock, of course, with a couple ammo clips. It was some bulletproof armor and about $3 billion just sitting right there. And of course, his favorite car. And of course, a couple other things that he didn't really want to discuss. These were the quirk erasing bullets that he had made from Eri, but in this universe, he didn't actually get those from Eri. He got them from someone else who found Eri, so he had never done those things to Eri. So yeah, he took them all with him, and he said, okay, Izuku, time to get a house. And Izuku said, okay. And long story short, they end up buying a pretty big house in a pretty fancy area. And Izuku is wondering what's going to happen next. But if you guys want to see how the rest of the story is impacted by Izuku being an OP experiment and Overhaul being his brother, just make sure you click on the video when it comes out in the second part. If you guys want to see a second part, let me know. I'll be happy to do so. So without any further ado, peace.